never do this to someone you love. And yet, avoidants do it to the people they love most, over and over again. If you have ever been discarded by an avoidant partner and thought, "That was too cold to be about me," stay with me, because you're about to find out why the coldest exits usually come from the deepest fear, not the smallest amount of love. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to do with that information, instead of just replaying the breakup in your head for the 10th time. Here's the thing nobody tells you about avoidant attachment. The size of the wall doesn't tell you how big the feeling is. It tells you how threatened they felt. Psychologist John Bowlby, the father of attachment theory, was the first to map out how people regulate closeness and distance when a relationship starts to feel threatening. Researchers McCullencer and Shaver later gave this specific shutdown pattern a name: a deactivating strategy. That's a fancy way of saying the nervous system hits a panic button and shuts the whole system down before it can get hurt. They spent decades studying this exact pattern, and what they found is almost the opposite of what it looks like on the surface. The more overwhelmed an avoidant feels by closeness, the more extreme the shutdown. So a clean, brutal, no explanation exit isn't proof they never cared. It's often proof the opposite happened. They cared enough that it scared them. Now, I want to be careful here, because this is where a lot of people get stuck. Knowing why something happened does not mean you have to accept how it happened. That's coming up later in this video, and it might be the most important part, so don't skip ahead. Let's talk about what a brutal discard actually looks like. One day you're planning a weekend together. The next day, silence. No fight, no warning, no closure. Just gone. It feels senseless because you're looking for logic in an emotional reaction. But attachment researcher Diane Poole Heller explains that for someone with an avoidant strategy, emotional intensity itself is the threat, not the relationship, not you specifically, the intensity. When things get real, when someone starts mattering, the nervous system reads that as danger the same way it would read a genuine threat to survival. So the exit isn't measured. It's a flight response. And flight responses are never gentle. Here's the part most people miss completely, and it's the piece that actually explains the title of this video. Therapist Stan Tatkin, who spent his career studying attachment in couples, points out that avoidants often save their most extreme withdrawal for the relationships that hit deepest. A situationship, someone they were never invested in, doesn't usually get the brutal treatment. It gets a slow fade, a shrug, an easy goodbye. It's the person who actually mattered who gets the door slammed shut. Why? Because the stakes are higher. The fear of losing themselves, of being controlled, of being truly seen and then rejected for it, all of that gets louder in proportion to how much they feel. So the brutal exits, the blocked numbers, the total disappearance, that's not the absence of feeling. That's feeling turned up so high the only response left was to run. Think about it this way. Picture two relationships side by side. In the first one, things stayed light, low stakes, easy to walk away from. When it ended, there was a normal conversation, maybe even a "let's stay friends." In the second one, things got serious. Late-night talks, real vulnerability, maybe even a future being planned out loud. And that's the one that ended without a word. If you're comparing those two endings and wondering why the deeper connection got the colder treatment, you're not imagining the pattern. You're seeing the deactivating strategy doing exactly what it's built to do. The closer someone gets to the center of an avoidance world, the harder that internal alarm goes off, and the harder they slam the exit on their way out. Now for the part I promised earlier. Here's the reality check, and it matters, because what I just told you can be twisted into something that keeps you stuck instead of setting you free. Understanding that a brutal discard might come from fear does not mean you wait around for someone to come back and prove it. It does not mean you excuse cruelty. It does not mean they ghosted me because they loved me so much becomes your new coping mechanism. Fear is an explanation for a nervous system reaction. It is not a pass for how someone treated you. You are allowed to understand exactly why something happened and still decide that it was not okay, and still choose not to let that door back open. The psychology explains the behavior. It does not excuse the behavior. Those are two very different things, and mixing them up is how people stay stuck for years. If any part of this has clicked for you so far, drop a like now so I know this is actually landing. So how do you actually use this information instead of just feeling validated by it? Start by separating the story from the pattern. The story is what happened to you specifically, the details, the timeline, the things they said or didn't say. The pattern is what attachment research tells us about how avoidance strategies work in general. When you stop taking the brutal exit personally and start seeing it as a nervous system doing what it was wired to do under threat, it stops being a verdict on your worth. Psychologist Chris Fraley's research on attachment stability backs this up too. Avoidant patterns tend to hold steady across different relationships, rather than showing up only with you specifically. That's not comforting because it excuses the pain. It's comforting because it tells you the exit was never really about you being unlovable. It was about a system that reads closeness as danger. I'm curious about something, so tell me in the comments. Was there a specific moment where you realized the coldness wasn't about you at all? It was about them? I read these and I want to know what that moment looked like for you. Here's where this leaves you. You don't need to diagnose your ex from a distance or spend the next 6 months decoding why they left the way they did. You need to know this one thing. The depth of a discard tells you about their fear, not your worth. That knowledge is for your own peace, not for building a case to let them back in. It's not a green light to stay hopeful, and it's not a reason to keep checking their story for updates. Stop mistaking the volume of the exit for the size of the love, and start protecting yourself either way. If this explained something about your past that never made sense before, send it to the person who needs to hear it today. If you found value in this video, don't forget to like and subscribe.